You're not going to miss this episode of the AI Show. We talk all about best practices for building agentic apps with Azure AI Foundry with my friend Amanda. Make sure you tune in. Hello, welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about best practices for building agentic apps with Azure AI Foundry, my friend Amanda. How you doing, Amanda?
Pretty good. How are you, Seth?
Good. Let me show you. So we're gonna watch this, and I'm gonna pause because I didn't tell you I was gonna do this. We're gonna watch this, and I'm gonna pause and be like, "What were you thinking in this very moment?" So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't tell her we'd do this, but I thought we would do it. Okay, here we go.
Let's take a look how easy it is to build an example of a multi-agent system with.
Oh my God.
Do you know what's happening here? I just paused it.
I do.
This is, by the way, I didn't know this, but y'all took a full 8 minutes.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Which was awesome. By the way, we are watching the section of the keynote that we are actually going to be talking about today with Amanda, so that we can figure out like how this was actually built. But it's about 8 minutes long. So you tell me if you want to pause something and have a commentary about it, or I'll pause it. Okay, so just be like, stop right there. Okay.
Please welcome Amanda and Elijah to walk us through this.
Yeah, golf claps.
What better way to showcase our Foundry Agent Factory than by demonstrating it live, then taking you behind.
By the way, can I just say, this was her first build, and she's like standing in the stage. That's craziness to me. Were you like, wow, this is cool? Because the lights are pretty bright up there, yeah?
Yeah, I think, like I've said from the beginning, I have nothing to compare it to, which might be my greatest strength because, I just went out there and did it and tried not to think about everything else.
And for those that are wondering, I'm sitting backstage because this app I built with Amanda and Elijah, so all three of us built it, and I'm sitting there, no joke.
He was ghost demoing and making sure everything was perfect and nothing crashed.
Yeah, but I had my feet off the ground for good luck because I think this is one of the most complicated demos we've ever done. If I'm being honest. If you think about it. All right, so let's keep going.
And ensure they're safe and secure. Before we jump into our multi-agent application, let's first build a single agent together using Azure AI Foundry portal. Meet our RSVP agent. Here's how we'll build it. First, we're going to give it a model. Here we're using GPT-4o. Next, we're going to give it a set of instructions. And finally, we're going to configure some tools. Here, we're going to use the file search tool to manage my invite list, as well as the create calendar event open API tool, which will call an Azure Logic app to create a calendar event on my behalf.
So let's pause right there because I wanted to ask you, because there's people here watching. My mom logs in a couple of times, as you probably know. What is an agent? Because I think we just dove in. Like, what is in your brain space? Like, how would you describe an agent?
To me, when I think of an agent, I want to first just say there's many different definitions across the industry right now, and I think that's something at Microsoft and just by talking to colleagues and people everywhere, it's a very simple question, but yet it's one that stumps a lot of people, and I think even at Microsoft we struggled with this. Given that, at Foundry, we like to define an agent by 3 components. I kind of was going into this here, but we define an agent as a model, or like kind of the brain of the agent, a set of instructions, and then tools, which is where Foundry Agent Service actually comes in and tries to simplify that step as much as possible with the pre-built tools you'll see in a moment. But that's how we define an agent.
I love it. So you're saying that an agent has the model itself, which is the brain, it has the instructions, and it has the tools, and those 3 things together give it the agency to act on our behalf.
Act on your behalf, or act with you in the loop, whatever you decide. You're programming it at the end of the day. I think that's a very important misconception. Like, you are making all of the decisions about the scope of this agent's work, what it can do, if it can do anything on your behalf. You have that control.
Preach. Okay, cool. Let's keep going then.
Right now, I'm going to ask it to create a calendar event for today, actually called Post-Build After Party, and I'm inviting Elijah.
Oh, sweet. I'm excited for this after party. And what's it doing right now,
As
Amanda?
you can see, in a moment, it will start using its configuration, which we just did together, to make the correct tool calls and then eventually create the calendar event on my behalf.
Awesome. So now, moment of truth. Let's pull up my calendar, and you guys can see I got a.
Hold on, I gotta pause this. I don't think people appreciated the calendar of Elijah. This to me was because we I don't know if people know this, but when we do demos, we storyboard them a little bit. Usually it's just me doing this, but it was cool that I got to be with Amanda and Elijah, and we storyboarded them, and we're like, okay, how do we do a handoffs? And Elijah was like, I can put fun stuff in my calendar, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. I think we can stop here. This is like the greatest part of the show. I mean, practice saying orthogonal. I don't even know if I have a laugh. Where's my laugh track? I don't have it. I haven't put it in there. That's the sound effect I have for that. And by the way, for those that were watching, this wasn't a recording or anything. Where you were doing all this stuff for realsies, yeah?
Yeah, all of this was completely live, which I don't know, don't think I necessarily fully comprehended the magnitude of. I got a lot of "you're so braves."
Yeah, because sometimes people record stuff because it might take a little bit longer than like they're like, okay, you have to explain all of AI and you only have 30 seconds, so make sure you fit it in. And so people, the only thing you can do is record it. And so people are like, wow, you're letting the AI do this stuff for real. And you're like, yes.
I
All
mean,
right, let's
it's our product. It kind of doesn't make sense either way.
Yeah, and it actually works. So, and that's the thing that at least me and Amanda and Elijah were very, because there's a lot of AI hype out there, and we wanted to like show people, oh no, this actually does what we wanted to.
Really busy day
cool. All right, let's keep
here
going.
today, and there it is. It showed up in my calendar. Thanks so much, Amanda, for the sweet invite. So that was great, but now let's jump into the code.
There was no party.
So I'm jumping into VS Code, and you can see here that I have the Azure AI Foundry extension installed. This extension is great because we can see the models, agents, and threads that are associated with our project. I want to take a moment to zoom in on threads because transparency is a key part of agentic workflows. And through threads, we can see each step the agent is taking along the way. So here we can actually see what Amanda just said, as well as the agent's response, as well as more in-depth details, like the number of tokens that were used, as well as the tools that were invoked. Pretty cool, huh, Amanda?
Let me pause right here because now you're. One concept that we omitted is because we talked about agents, we talked about the three things, right? The model instructions and the tools, but then there's a new concept of threads. Why don't you help our viewers understand what a thread is?
Yeah, a thread is essentially a unit of conversation between an end user and an agent. And there can be, again, an agent has multiple threads because it could be having conversations with multiple users throughout the day. And even with one user, you could start another thread, which is just like another kind of blank, fresh conversation.
Yeah, and the cool thing about threads is that when you start working in multi-agent systems, you have to start deciding about like, how do we do thread scoping? Right, and that was one of the things that we discussed in the, and I'll put a link at the end on the session where we went into in depth, but we didn't have time to go through the whole thing. So, all right, let's keep going.
Stored?
That's a great question. Developers actually have the ability to use managed resources, but I actually today have them in my own Cosmos DB. What's great also is that we could use the data in Microsoft Fabric and Azure Databricks to power our agents. And so yeah, we can see here. It's also, we're very excited that Cosmos DB is now available in Microsoft Fabric. So that's great. Now, let's jump back into the code to see how we can actually build our Foundry agent. So I'm going to go here into this file, and you can see we're using the Foundry Agent Service SDK to be able to initiate our agent client. Then from there, we're going to attach the file search tool. What's important to note here, though, is that even though I'm using the file search tool today, we could use a variety of tools, including external APIs, MCP or Model Context Protocol servers, or even other agents using the Foundry Connected Agent tool.
All right, so let me pause right there. I had muted myself. So this is effectively the same thing that you showed at the beginning, but just in code, right? It's exactly the same thing, no different.
Yes. That is correct. And I think that's one important thing we wanted to show is that I started with building the agent in the Foundry portal, but then Elijah literally just opened it up then in code, and you can seamlessly go between the two. So if he, for example, now created a new agent in the same project, and then I went back to that project in the portal, I would see that new agent. So it's really great because you can easily switch between the two and just choose whatever kind of is the way you like to configure your agents.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And you can actually see there's this concept of a project. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So all of the Foundry agents are scoped to something called our project. And what that basically means is all of the agents within that project will share the same resources. So they're using the same file storage, thread storage, search resources. And that also means that like there's data isolation at that project level. If you created another project, the agents in that project would also have data isolation within that project. So it's essentially like a unit of sharing between your
Love it. And by the way, that you were originally given like 4 minutes to do all this. I'm glad you had space to let this breathe, which was really cool, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if we were supposed to take 8 minutes, but we didn't go over time in general, so it's fine.
Worked out. And the cool thing, and we had just met Jay, because he's a brand new brand new guy, you know, in charge. He was really cool about like, hey, yeah, just let it breathe. I'm more interested in everyone seeing how this works.
Yeah, I think we all appreciated that a lot. Like from the beginning, he was like, this is your demo. You say what you want, and then if there's other things we need to fit in, I'll put that in my talk track, which I think we all really appreciated having that like creative liberty.
Yeah. And it was creative liberty. I'm getting flashbacks because this is like what you told them.
That's what I told the agent.
I was like, creative liberty. Where have I heard? Oh, okay. Let's keep going.
I'm giving it a model as well as a name and the system prompt. That's great. Now let's see how we execute our agent. So I'm going to go in here. You can see I'm executing it using the Foundry Agent Service SDK. But what's also important to know that we're using Foundry agents today, but we could use any kind of agent, including Crew AI, LangChain, or even multiple agents using agent-to-agent or A-to-A protocol.
So this is the part that I built. That code you see over there, it just shows you how really easy it is to execute a Foundry agent. And I think that was the bit that was that Elijah he said really fast, because it's just code. You can actually run any agent you want, right? And it doesn't really make a difference. She's like,
Right now, if anyone's
yes.
like wondering what I'm doing in the demo, because I look really focused typing on my computer, Seth and I had a joke, but it wasn't a joke. We just like I was restarting the backend just to make sure before I demoed the live app, which I didn't even have to do, but it was more of a security blanket at that point. Was just making sure everything was up and running, because you'll see in a moment I'm about to demo it live.
She's being very nice. I had a really weird bug where I had like a while true and async 4 that sometimes caused the container to lock up. And so we got into this place where we would be like, I need to kick the container. I need to kick the container, and that's what she was doing. She was kicking the container, and at that point, it was more secure because I actually found the bug, and I was like, "Oh, there's a problem." But sometimes it would be weirdness, like, and so we just restarted, right? And that's something we have to figure out. And then so that's that. So she's furiously like kicking the container, even though I had kicked it like 4 times right before. I was like, restart right before. Okay, so all right, here we go. We're gonna actually do the thing, I think.
So this is awesome, but now let's see our agents in action. Amanda, do you want to show them what we built?
Yeah. Now let's dive into the application. Build Events is a multi-agent event planner application powered by a voice-controlled agentic orchestrator, which will delegate tasks, or tool calls as we call them, to our sub-agents we built using the Foundry Agent Service. Together, we just built our RSVP agent, but now let me show you the power of multiple agents working together in one experience.
Hello, how can I assist you with your event planning needs today?
Hi, I'd like help planning a hackathon in San Francisco on May 22nd, 2025. My budget is $15,000 and I'm expecting around 200 attendees. The event will be from 5 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. Could you please help me find an event venue?
I'm searching for a venue in San Francisco to host your... Sure, I can assist with that. Would you like help with creating invitations or setting up an RSVP system for the hackathon?
Our first agent is now hard at work, which will help me find an event venue.
Here are some venue options in San Francisco for your hackathon. 1, the Fillmore. Capacity up to 1,000 guests.
Hey, this looks great. Could we go with the Fillmore? Could you now create the calendar event and send out my invites to my invite list?
I'm in the process of creating the calendar event for the hackathon at the Fillmore and sending out the invites to your existing invite list. I'll update you once it's done. Is there anything you'd like to arrange for the hackathon? The hackathon event?
Yes. Now I'd like your help generating an image to promote my event on LinkedIn, as well as drafting some content. I'd like you to make the image convey excitement, but other than that, take full creative liberty on both tasks.
I'm working on generating an exciting image and drafting content to promote your hackathon on LinkedIn. I'll have them ready shortly. Is there anything specific you'd like to include in the post?
As you can see, now 2 Foundry agents have been kicked off at the same time, working simultaneously to help me get my LinkedIn post ready. The first one finished.
And innovation. I'm waiting
and
for the
here
image
is
to be
the draft
generated,
we have for
and
the
then
LinkedIn
I'll have
post.
Everything ready for you to review.
And here is the
Would you
image.
like to approve the draft now?
Hi, this looks great. Could you now post both the image and the draft to LinkedIn?
I'm posting the image and draft to LinkedIn now. I'll let you know once it's live.
So now our final agent has been kicked off, and it will give the response back and tell us the status of our post. So, moment of truth.
Oh my gosh, I was sweating bullets
Getting
here.
it there.
This agent was really dramatic.
This is a live demo, so
Yeah,
it may take
everything
a
is
second.
happening live, so that is why.
The LinkedIn post has been successfully published.
Okay, now let's go to LinkedIn, and again, this is live, so we're making sure everything went through. And
There
as you
it
can see,
is.
the post is now live. Check out our Build Events by Contoso page after this if you want to see my practice.
Oh my gosh, that to me, it felt like it was 50. I aged like 17 years. It took like what, 15 seconds, and we're just like,
Yeah, that was the longest I think it's ever taken. Yeah, the agent was just really enjoying its moment of
it's like,
spotlight.
let me shine. I want to. But the thing about it is, like, we're sitting here like saying, wow, that took forever. It was 15 seconds. Right, 15, 20 seconds tops, which to me is insane. We're sitting there complaining. It's like that guy on the airplane. Remember the first, well, you don't remember this, but the first time there was internet on an airplane and the guy opens up his phone and he's like, this is too slow. Like, you're in a flying tube. You have the internet, right? And we're sitting here complaining about the thing taking 15 seconds to post on LinkedIn, which was kind of cool. What were you thinking there? Like,
I don't know. At this point, I felt good. I think as long as it started calling the agents, I said to Seth, I'll be fine. I'll just get it working on the spot because then I know our service isn't down or like, again, OpenAI's like as long as the first agent call happened, I knew I could pretty much get it working.
yeah. And what was cool is like you could see, and we actually opened the tools because I spit out every event that happened, so you could actually see that it was all happening live. And I think there was no question that it was happening live, which was kind of cool. Even the dramatic pause, I think, made for a better show.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish it up because I think the evals are important too because that's part of like what's
show
important.
us how we ensure our agents are always doing as we program them to do.
Amanda, that was great. And you guys are all invited to our hackathon coming up. So now that we know our agents are up and running, it's also crucial to make sure that they're delivering high-quality results. And in order to do that, we've integrated the Azure AI Evaluation SDK directly into our CI/CD pipeline with GitHub Actions. And what's actually even more exciting is using GitHub models, which Jessica presented earlier, we generated a summary of all the evals that we're running here. So we
Hold on, and this, I don't think people realize this because this was fast too. What Elijah did is he had a GitHub model look at the output and then create a summary and then put it into the output as well. So he was using a model while the GitHub action was running, which was actually really cool. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was cool. But did you think it was cool, Amanda?
I did. And also he's showing off in a second, you'll see all of our new
Oh,
agent
see, she
evals.
moves it along. She's like, Seth, it's the
My favorite live demo that we didn't show here, but we showed at our session later on was we planned Seth's birthday party. Because this app can plan all types of events. We wanted to make that
I almost
clear
cut that out last night so I could show people, but we'll point people to the session and maybe
it
we'll
would
bring it up.
enhance
So here, let's
our
go.
overall DevOps experience. And then you can see, here are our agents that we're evaluating, as well as operational metrics, doing pretty well, and then some AI quality metrics. And it looks like, Amanda, we got to do some work to improve the AI quality. So today, you've seen how to create, use.
Hold on. Did I hear? This is something I just heard. You were like, ugh.
I mean, he was like calling out the agents for having some quality issues. So
I think we had like what's that?
as I said, at the end of the day, it's
Yeah,
we're gonna have to do.
yeah.
Members of the product team.
That was my favorite. All right, here we go. This is he's gonna take it home.
AI Agent Foundry service. Amanda and I actually have a breakout session today at 4:30 where we'll be taking an even deeper dive on the app you saw here today. We're super excited to see what you build. And with that, Jay, we'll kick it back to you. Thank you, guys.
Look at that, walking off like a bunch of bosses. Okay, well, that was let me remove this here. Yeah, so any additional thoughts that you had about that?
I think I was happy with how it went overall. I think everything for the most part, there wasn't anything that was like really surprising or didn't go as planned, which is all you can ask for. So
Yeah.
once it posted, I was like, woo, we're good.
Wow. And I told him, y'all are gonna be super tired after this, and you're like, no, I won't. And then Elijah just fell asleep or something. He was so tired. So let's talk about the important bits, right? Because the way we divided the work was interesting. I made the app and integrated with the agents, but you made all the agents. I didn't touch any of that at all. And then Elijah did all of the evals, which coincidentally we finished 30 minutes before our session.
Well, we did all of the evals like for this app previously, but there were other evals based on like we gave a session later on where we built more agents, we built single agents, we built using something called like a connected agent pattern, which we have in Foundry Agent Service, and we finished that before.
Yes.
We didn't do this one
No.
30 minutes before.
Yes. No, yes. Yeah, absolutely right. She's like, no, Seth, we got our homework in on time. It was fine. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is, and maybe you can give us some insight, because I didn't do any of this. This was all you. What was it like working with the agents? What was the hard part? And what are some best practices, advice that you have for people? Because you spent a lot of time making, because it worked. It did exactly what we wanted it to. Give us some advice on what it is that it takes to actually build these agents correctly.
Yeah, so we went over in that video earlier, like what an agent was and how to build it in the UI. I think when you're building a single agent in particular, what I thought was the hardest part and where I invested the most amount of time, which I didn't know actually going into this, was with writing the prompts. Because I know Seth and I had kind of talked about this, but just with like the power of a prompt, we got it to do the right thing, even if I had maybe, again, spun up that agent in a minute or two because you truly can build them really, really fast. And I think that's one of the great things about our service is we make like adding a tool something that you can do in like 30 seconds or less. Like there are obviously some tools that take longer than that, but really like we've met like our Azure AI Foundry agent service has kind of simplified that step in the building of agent process, so that there's less you have to focus on as a developer. And that is definitely something that I took away from this. I don't have the file open right now, but on screen during our session, and this is recorded, I literally showed the file where I was keeping track of like all of my prompt revisions, and it was like, I don't know, 20, 30 pages. But that was for the whole agentic system, not just one agent. But all of those single agents have their own specific like sub prompt. And that's something that I worked on like kind of time and time again, refining to ensure the agents were doing what they wanted to do. And we also like got our app in the flow of it to speed up significantly just by changing the prompts.
Yeah, because it was quite chatty at the beginning, and it would want to like
Verbose.
chatty, Yeah, that's the $5 word. Yeah, it would like read you everything, and sometimes it would like wake up and be like, "I just got a promotion," and we're like, "What?"
It had its own personality.
Yeah, and
to behave in a very specific way, which I
yeah,
think is really powerful too, because like we don't have, I know they're going to be adding like kind of more formal guardrails, but just with prompting, you can pretty efficiently kind of refine the scope to as small or as large as you want, which was
yeah,
cool.
and the way I think of these things, and I don't know if this jives with what you're thinking. It was almost like a puppet that we had to attach more strings to make sure it like moved the way we wanted it to, and those strings were actually words, right? I think is what
Yeah.
my analogy was. Okay, so any advice that you have for people to build these kinds of applications?
I know we talked about the right prompt. I think the right tools is another kind of really important step. Luckily, like I just said, Foundry Agent Service simplifies that. But then with going from that's all kind of in the bucket of like single agents. I think when you're then going from a single agent app to a multi-agent app, there's other kind of questions and complexity that comes up. I know for us, we were thinking about like what agentic pattern we should pick. And then also at both levels, you saw evals, but there's also tracing and monitoring and security features. And those on both kind of scopes are really important to focus on. Going back to like the pattern, and I know Seth said earlier, we did some interesting and kind of innovative thread management techniques that we definitely are going to want to build into our service now, because I think we set this up in a very cool way where essentially right now we have multi-agent workflows and semantic kernel process framework, and that is kind of and we have a connected agent approach built into our service, but that connected agent approach doesn't have the voice controller capabilities built onto it yet. So when we built this app, decided that that was kind of the pattern that we wanted to kind of emulate and build out in our application. And the reason we chose that specific pattern is because we didn't want to kind of do a set process of events. Like when you're planning an event, you might not have to pick a venue every time. It could be just an event you're having that's like as simple as a meeting in your office. And we really wanted to build this app so that it could essentially, if we just kept building onto it, like do anything for event planning. And because of that, we didn't think the process framework was like the best kind of choice for us. So we chose to go with a connected agent pattern, which again kind of calls the agents as a tool. And then the agents themselves might have multiple tools and again, different kind of actions they can perform them. But the voice controller agent is the only talking to the end user, which is great from like a simplicity sake. Having multiple agents talking to me probably wouldn't have worked in that
Right.
diagram. As well as for thread management, Seth, if you want to talk about what you did there, because I think that's something we've talked about we want to build into the service.
So yeah, oh, sorry, and I'm hearing myself a little bit. Maybe it's just I'm loud. No, it's good now. So basically, the real-time API also has the ability to do tool calling, as Amanda figured out. But what the voice controller, the voice API, what the voice does is when it calls the tool calls, it actually fills in the properties of the actual function call, right? And so in this case, because it was calling another agent, there really was no parameters, because when you call an agent, you just say, you talk to it, right? And so the cool bit was, and this, Amanda, I don't know, it was like a 2 a.m. kind of thing where we recognized that the voice controller, because I added 2 parameters. I said the voice controller, when it calls an agent, can have additional instructions and then a question. And so we had the voice controller actually asking the other agents to update its system message and asking it a question in English. And that was, we're like, holy cow, it like asked it, can you please make this LinkedIn post? And here's the post. And it was all in English. And to us, that was really cool. And so what that did is that there was a global thread for the voice controller. And then when it moved over to the other agents, it had its own thread scope that was asked to do some work by and so it was really actually disconnected, but connected by English. And remember when we had that realization? Why don't you talk about that? It was actually really cool.
Yeah, I think early on, before we had actually built in most of this like management, and I know you added kind of additional functionality to make sure it was always kind of working efficiently, but we were testing out the like post to LinkedIn, and I just asked it, like the voice controller, once the content was generated in the image, like, okay, this looks great. Can you post it? And it passed in like word for word exactly the post that had been generated by the sub agent to like the next agent. And we didn't like tell it anything beyond like the prompt and then me just again giving it specific instructions, and it did the right thing. In the additional instructions, it passed in like word for word. Like I remember Seth being like, what, I didn't tell it, like I didn't program that yet, like how did that work?
Yeah.
But really I think that's the power of like that these are non-deterministic, but also they are like really powerful reasoning models. And even with limited kind of system prompting and constraints, they do the right thing a lot of the time.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that as Amanda honed these prompts, they actually did even better. However, there were some cases where the non-determinism kind of bit us a little bit, and we were able to overcome that by being deterministic in non-deterministic cases. Tell them about the image stuff.
Yeah, I think when we were generating the image, we were saving it to like a storage account, but if I was running it locally versus if we were like running the actually deployed version of the container, sometimes like when I'd say, okay, like, cause I wasn't giving it like super detailed instructions, I was just talking to it as I would talk to a voice assistant. I'd be like, okay, now post this, or yeah, like pass, like if I didn't give it, again, sometimes it wouldn't pass the image in, or if I said, this is great, post the image and the draft, like maybe it would pass in like the local host URL, which
Yeah.
wasn't actually like where my image was. We did want to like make sure that it always was getting the correct image, which was stored in a blob storage account. So Seth had built in, again, additional kind of like checking to make sure that the URL is passed in so that I could still talk to it in plain English and not be like, make sure the URL is blank, 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 blank
Yeah.
every time, just to ensure it did the right thing. And sometimes it would do the right thing, but it wasn't like 100% accurate. And we wanted to just improve the system overall.
Yeah, and the learning for me was that you need to embrace non-determinism or stochastic processes where that made sense, but then embrace determinism where it was needed. And so, like sometimes it would mess up the URL. And so I just said, if there's an image URL in the parameters, I'm going to check it and make sure it's exactly the right one. And that's all I had to do. And it was actually really, really cool. All right. So any final thoughts for folks before we close this episode? She's like, no, I've said it all. Do you have any final thoughts?
I think Seth, do you want to put the link to your repo? I feel like a few people asked.
Yes, I actually have it.
Seth
By the
live
way,
in our talk decided he wanted some attention, and to publish it live, he's like, okay, now to finish, we're gonna publish this. Who wants it published? Got a whole standing ovation, round of applause, and then finally published the app.
I'm
But
such a diva. It's true.
we also did like a whole nother scenario later on to prove that this wasn't just hackathon planning. Because if you went to the page, you would probably see about 100 hackathons in San Francisco that I practiced.
But
But
there was
then we
one
started
special one.
doing Seth's birthday party planning in Seattle, a completely different city, because like truly we had this so you could plan any event in any city and any number of people, and it would pull up the correct venues, be able to generate content, and do all the steps.
You should watch this one because the event she plans. I don't. We thought it'd be cool, like if Jay, like our boss, would like have like get the event in his phone and he would show it. And so dude got like, because Amanda practiced so much, he had so many events, and on my birthday he has an event where Amanda has spent $100 for a venue for like 3 people that would show up to my park.
We didn't need him.
In a public park. And so I'm probably gonna, and like Jay got the event, which is kind of funny. By the way, this is the actual session I had there. And then if you want to rewatch Jay's keynote, you'll see that there. Well, Amanda, you're the best. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you all.
And thank you so much for watching. We're learning all about best practices for building agentic apps with Azure AI Foundry with Amanda. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care.